I'm Danielle Presley, here to talk about my own statuses and roles. My first status to go over is queer, which is a master status for me. I went with this one because it does encompass and affect everything in my life almost to a degree. The first role to this status is an activist role, and the second one I went with is a colleague role interacting with the community and others within the queer community in a way that's not along the same lines as an activist. It's more of a personal role. The second status I went with is as a worker. The first role is a social role, with the second being a professional, having to balance that sort of friendly approach with proper business etiquette. The big strain I'd say I have, the big conflict or role strain is within my queer status is balancing my activism while engaging with others in the community. There is oftentimes a very jarring sort of approach in, I don't want to say conflicts, in the ideas of other members. Just because you are queer or LGBTQIA plus, you're not going to have the same ideas or philosophies to navigate your own personal lives. So you definitely have to be able to balance that with what you want to do as an activist and somebody who navigates that space both on a personal level and a professional. The role conflict I went with is still because queer is what I would consider a master status in my life, is how it's touched and influenced other statuses in my life in the way of being a worker. This time, with my current job at Raising Cane's, I've been incredibly fortunate. They've been very friendly and willing to work with me um, in regards to name changes and pronouns and other things regarding my own status as a queer individual. So this time it has been very, very wonderful. But in the past, there has been cases where I've been ostracized and picked on and bullied by adults and others within the same place, and just been really really attacked because of it. So it's definitely had a very positive outlook or influence on my life. But there are going to be elements outside of that that I can't control. A dramaturgical analysis that I would use with being a queer is actually something that happened recently. The end of last November, we did a transgender vigil for transgender awareness. Um, and the theatrical components with that interaction is almost to a point, ironically, actually a stage. We performed and went over within the ACT building here in town, and the props we had were the flowers and the equipment we used. We had, or the costumes, the costume that I wore was something that I used to express who I am as a person outside of a work or student status, who I am authentically as an individual. And so that was it was still an eye-opening experience, and the impression management to that interaction is like I said, is portraying myself as authentically as I could be, showing that a caring and eagerness to better myself and learn from the ones that we had lost this past year. So it was definitely a great experience and something that I think back on often to help remember the kind of person that I still want to work towards and be. But those are my statuses and roles that I went over for this assessment. Have a good night.